Yo, what's going on, everybody? Everybody, it's your boy Big Blue. I just want to look at a video real quick just to see, just opinions. This is really just to get somebody's opinion, somebody's experience when it comes to, I guess, just life. And as you get older, a lot of times, depending on who you're around, conversation about politics starts to come up, especially when you're married. You can just go with the flow, whatever is going on. And I think that was probably the case not younger, but back in the day when politics was just simple and boring and whatnot. But as of lately, it seems like politics is starting to dig and dive into the social aspect and affect a lot of things socially to where it's now becoming a more important conversation and whatnot. So this is just by the YouTuber. Her goes by Gothics. The video is titled "How a Disney Movie Made Me Question Everything I Believe." And again, remember, this is all about opinion and one individual's experience. Y'all know my experience, and I already watched this video. I feel like my experience is very similar to hers, not in a sense of people that were necessarily talking to me, but a lot of the things that I started seeing, and it started to look very weird. So let's go ahead and see what she has to say. As always, go ahead and like, subscribe, and hit that bell if you like the video, and always comment anything that you want in regards to this situation. Let's go ahead and dig right into it.
My online handle is Gothics. I'm a content creator. I initially started making content, just streaming video games on Twitch. It was not very political at all. And now most of the things that I talk about on YouTube are political in nature, relating to culture and things like that. But it wasn't by choice. I sort of got pushed into that field as a result of me waking up politically. I never really was into politics at all, but I had a lot of opinions about politics. To give you some context, I had severe Trump derangement syndrome. I hated Trump. I hated everyone who voted for Trump. I actually cut off one of my best friends. I didn't speak to her for like a year because I could not understand how my white friend would vote for someone who was against my people, being black people. And so my political awakening pretty much happened over the course of maybe like 2 years. It started during when Disney announced that they were going to be doing a live-action remake of The Little Mermaid. I was wondering, why are they making Ariel black? I was very confused by this.
Which is very interesting. When I first heard that, I was like, oh, black? Did we need to do this whole black thing? But I thought about it, and I'm like, if we're really looking at it from a not even factual perspective, because obviously Little Mermaid isn't real, but hence that it's not real. And based off of the time, the plot in the area where everything was, these are fish in the sea. So you really can't tie a race. There wasn't no race of white fish mermaids that were in one area and then black fish mermaids in it. Like, it's different if you say, oh, it's the Queen of Europe and she's black, because there were no black queens of Europe. Or if it was a white queen in Africa, last time I checked, there were no white queens in Africa because everybody in Africa was black, at least back in the day, unless you're talking about specific areas on the top part of Africa. But anyways, that was my understanding when it comes to black mermaid. It's whatever, because it's a mermaid, you can't tie a color to a mermaid. So she could have been an Indian mermaid, and to me, it still would have been whatever, because you can't do that with mermaid. Now, when we're talking about Snow White, if you had a black Snow White, then it's like, all right, what are we doing now? Because this isn't like, you know what I'm saying? So that was kind of my mindset behind it. But see what her response is.
So naturally, I go online, I ask this question, and I started to get a lot of pushback from people who were my fans. A lot of them were black fans, and they were like, they couldn't understand why I had such a problematic anti-black opinion. And that sort of stuck with me right here, because I'm like, my audience just turned on me for a very reasonable question. And I also didn't like how if anyone opposed Ariel being turned black, you were automatically a racist.
And that's the thing that a lot of people are seeing. That's the thing that I have been seeing. You even mention anything opposing what you think, and you're automatically put on the bad side. Automatically, just for even questioning, just for even thinking different. And it's kind of weird. it's a weird thing to experience.
And that doesn't make any sense to me. So a few months later, COVID starts, and we're told to stay home and flatten the curve. Meanwhile, the BLM protest starts, and now all of a sudden, you can go out as long as you are protesting to end racial injustice or something like that. So that hypocrisy didn't make any sense to me. Either COVID is deadly or it's not. Either we stay home or we don't. We don't get to pick and choose. And once again, I brought up the question, what does stealing a 70-inch TV have to do with ending police brutality? And once again, I got hate. And then it dawned on me, hold on, I keep getting pushback from black leftists. There is something going on about this. So then I started going down a rabbit hole and I started literally researching black people who stopped being Democrat. And the amount of stuff that I got, it was crazy. The first thing that I watched was the Uncle Tom documentary. And what I came to realize after watching that is that we have been lied to about history. People love to go on and on about we need to teach the proper history. No, we're being taught selective history. And I don't know if I can speak for all the blacks
His
on this
story.
stage, but maybe
You can't tell a story if you're the loser. In most cases, that's just a term that I've heard growing up.
people can relate to. If you are black, there's something called the black card, and there's sort of like this expectation that you're supposed to behave in a certain way, and that trickles down all the way to who you vote for. And so when you are born black in America, it's sort of insinuated that you will be voting Democrat. Don't ask questions, just vote Democrat, which is exactly what I did when Obama was running. I voted for him because he's black. Knew nothing about his policies, but he's black, and I need to help my people or something like that. So yeah, and that process got me to start really considering all the things that I used to believe. One of the things was about Trump, and then I realized that, oh wow, the media is lying about him. They're taking these clips and they're using clickbait and distorting it, taking it totally out of context, and they're emotionally extorting people who wear their identity on their sleeve. If you are black and you see a video of some guy in office talking about anything racist, of course you're going to oppose him, right? And then that makes room for a political savior to come in who makes empty promises about ending white supremacy. I just came to realize that the media is not on our side. They're not there to tell us the news. They're not there to keep us informed. They're there to get us emotionally riled up so then they can use that to get us marching to the ballot box. They don't actually care about us. And that's pretty much my walkaway story.
It's very interesting where life takes us. And it's very interesting based off your environment, based off who you are, based on the culture, how you decide to do things. And as Black people, we tend to feel disenfranchised, especially we're a group of people that were taken out of our original roots by force. So there's that. The culture that we once had, we no longer connect with. So we're forced to create our own culture. Whereas when it comes to white people, they still kind of took in their culture and just brung it over here into America. So it's like one of those weird situations where it's like we are forced to start something anew, start a new culture, start a way of being individuals in this area that we're not used to, and just kind of, live off of that. But this was over 100 years ago. We've been in America for over 100 years. We've been living in America for over 100 years, and we've kind of established the cultures that we decide to live by for the most part. Some people steer away from it and are able to do better. Some people steer away from it and are able to do better. It's just a matter of choice in your life choices and how you learn and how you've been disciplined and how you tend to grow up. A lot of stuff that's been happening as of lately has been causing a shift in a lot of people and really questioning what is Black culture. And if I really want to continue to just live under this umbrella and just not have to really question things, you just kind of go with the motions and just do whatever and just act accordingly. I think as I'm talking about this right now, I'm getting this feeling that when it comes to Black culture, they kind of live off of the sense of you just do whatever somebody else tells you to do, and you just do whatever you feel. In a sense of like, when you want to do something, you just do it. Don't put much thought into it. You kind of just do it. And it's kind of a weird state to be in. I really don't find myself diving into Black culture, especially growing up. Like I've said before, I was always like that nerdy kid. I was aware of the culture. I was aware of certain music. I'm I was aware of rap, but my mother especially definitely kept that mindset, that Haitian mindset of l'école, la caille, l'église. That's school, that's home, and that's church. And even though I was introduced to a lot of the stuff that, the world had to offer, and I dabbled in some of those stuff, it was never like in me to really like stick with it. I always felt out of place. Like I couldn't really see myself committing to all of this stuff, all of the rap, the pop culture and stuff like that. Wanting to, feel like I gotta be a thug because that's publicized a lot in the black culture. The drugs, the being a thug, being a gangster, all that stuff. It's been made as a means of doing stuff, being an athlete, all that stuff. I never really found myself being put in that ecosphere of living. I always felt like there was something more that was out there. Not even felt like there was something more. I just felt like this wasn't it. This wasn't for me type thing. And that could have been the way that I was raised. But if that's the case, then it's just a matter of raising your kids to think differently, which I think Gothix, if that's her name, was experiencing. She sat and she thought and she questioned, which a lot of people don't do. They don't question, or the second that they do question, they get backlash. And so they just revert back on that question and just decide not to continue to press on it. Where Gothic, she questioned, got the backlash. She questioned again and got even more backlash. And then realized, all right, I'm not gonna sit here and allow it to happen a third time. Clearly, that's the 2 out of 3. So there has to be something that I'm not understanding or something that I'm missing here. And that's something that I kind of realized. Like, it's not that I'm saying, no, I am saying that black culture is low key degenerate. Yeah, I am saying that black culture is low key degenerate. There's more to life than just this culture that we've tried to create and we've failed to create. It's more highly valued to be a thug, to worry about money, to worry about all the bling, have a high body count, be able to do this, do that, and stuff like that. It's more value to do that than to be married, than to have kids, than to be working at a job where you're being part of the economy, being a well citizen in this economy and doing our part and just being able to live in accordance to, something that isn't just your culture. That's not favored in black culture. From my experience, somebody, if you think otherwise, let me know. But based off of my experience, like I said, I've been living amongst this and I always felt out of place. So I've seen this. And it's not often that I find people that value the same things that I value. It doesn't matter. It's not a matter of just being, wanting to live in a white culture, but it's a matter of having more and having enough and providing for somebody else. But that doesn't seem to be the case with black culture. And again, like she said, when it comes to black people, their mindset is just, yeah, you just vote Democrat, unless you actually question the system and decide to go elsewhere. Then you mainly tell your kids, hey, you vote how you want, or at least that's the idea. You vote how you want, but don't just vote blindly. Think about what you're doing. Think about who you're voting for. Think about your morals. Think about your values and all that stuff. Because as much as people say that they don't like politics, they don't dig into politics, the stuff that happens in politics affects people directly. They may not think it does, but it does. And thus that affects the way that they vote. But when they don't see exactly what's going on and just go off of based off what somebody tells them is going on and not actually like stand around and like look and see themselves, then of course they're going to be directed in a path that's going to be manipulated by those that have the information, those that have power over us. If somebody has more information than you, then they have that power over you. And a lot of black people don't realize. They just don't realize that. Just like a lot of white people, they don't realize that the church has a lot of power over a lot of people. A lot of pastors have a lot of power over a lot of people, but that's because they're not doing their due diligence in researching and seeing the word and reading the Bible themselves and getting their own connection with God. they're relying on the pastor. So when the pastor provides all the information, all the answers for the individual, of course they can manipulate some of the things that they're saying to help benefit them in the long run. You see what I'm saying? So in a sense, and it's not just black people, it's white people too. They just go with the flow and go with whatever they hear and then go with whatever they're saying on TikTok or on Facebook or WhatsApp. It happens all the time. But the problem is we have a community of people that just do things blindly and is okay with that. And it's like they calling other people sheep and they need to be woke, yet they're the ones that's still living the way that they are. They're the ones that's heavenly upset, always upset, can't have a conversation that opposes whatever it is that they think about. And that's the crazy thing that comes to mind. Instead of being so upset at the thought of somebody thinking other than you, why not figure out where their mindset is? See where the information is coming from. And at that same token, see where their values lie. Because you can explain things 100 different types of ways to convince them otherwise. But if that doesn't align with their values, they're not going to change their mind. Like to me, they could say, yo, yeah, well, the government provides this, the government provides that, this and the third. Well, my values doesn't rely on the government helping me to do everything in my life. So you could tell me absolutely everything under the sun. But if that means that I got to bow down to the government, then I'm not going to be okay with it. It's just hypothetical. That's just hypothetical. But that's really where a lot of things are pointing to. And we have to maneuver, be very cunning. We have to be and that's the thing. These people, a lot of the people, especially when it comes to those that claim to be in the church, y'all know I'm going to bring up the church. When it comes to those that claim to be in the church, they always have such harsh remarks. And like, what was it? James Bryant at the end of his sermon that one Sunday, he's talking about you better not watch the inauguration. It's like, yo, what do you mean? What do you mean you better not watch the inauguration? What if somebody just wants to see what's happening, to see what's going on? Talk about you better not watch the inauguration. Why? Because the president that you wanted didn't win? That's why? So you think what you care about matters so much that somebody else can't just watch the inauguration? It doesn't make sense. Bible says that we're supposed to be as gentle and peaceful as a dove, but cunning like a snake. This is what Jesus says specifically in Matthew. We cannot sit here and just allow whatever to happen to us, because that's how we get simply manipulated. But when you get situations that come up where you're thinking and you're like, I got a question about something. If you have an opposing answer or you have an opposing thought, you don't just sit here and be cunning as a snake, but then be as vicious as a snake. That's not what it says. We're not supposed to sit here and bite people the second that they got something opposing to us. We're supposed to be gentle with other people. We're supposed to be gentle in our hearts and our souls and not reach to anger and frustration the second that there's something that, that opposes what we think. That calls having a lack of self-control. But instead, be calm in all situations and really try to get a better understanding. That's where the cunning part is. Get a better understanding of what's going on and maneuver off of that. But there's so many times where there's just like such heavy bickering, such heavy arguments, losing of friends, or like having, these craziness just because of information that they don't even know for the most part. But this is my opinion. Of course, my opinion is going to be different from everybody else's. So y'all go ahead and like, subscribe, and hit that bell. I'm going to catch you on the next one. Take it easy. Peace.